Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. I'm going to continue with vinyl, and my show today is going to focus on what I would call lost vinyl. These are vinyl albums, classic vinyl for me, classic albums that I love that have never been released on CD, or they were released on CD a long time ago in such a small quantity that you basically have to have another mortgage to buy the CD on the secondary market. I'm wearing a Rhino baseball cap, and the reason why I have never been in the music industry, I have no affiliation with Rhino, but I think they do an amazing job. And it's my little hint saying to them, hey guys, I got some great albums here that you need to put out on CD so people who still buy CDs like me could buy them. So without further ado, let's start. I think I'm going to do this video in multi-parts because people are telling me my videos are too long and boring. So I will try to speed this up, but I'm really just trying to give information and you could watch it over time. So let's start. The first album that I'm going to show is this one. This is a band, April Wine. You've probably heard of them. They had some success with a couple of hit singles, Just Between You and Me and Enough Is Enough. But in 1977, the Rolling Stones played a surprise concert in Toronto at the Omacombo Club under the name the Cockroaches because they were, for Keith Richards had gotten arrested up there. And they wanted to release some live music from a club at the Omacombo, which turned out to be side 3 of Love You Live. Anyway, the headline band that night was April Wine, who's one of the most famous Canadian rock bands ever. And they actually released a live album of their set on vinyl. Here it is, April Wine live at the Omacombo. So it's a good live record, not phenomenal, but it's good. I don't think you can get this on CD anymore. But if you like April Wine, early April Wine, this is a really solid live record. But I have to put it in because it's a historic show due to that Stones show. That's the first one. Look at this one. This is a really rare find. Bachman-Turner Overdrive Japan Tour Live. I like Bachman-Turner Overdrive. Their classic stuff is really good. I call them meat and potatoes rock and roll. That's what they are, but not Fragile and BTO2 are classic albums. But they never released an official live album, really, except for this one, which is a really hard to find live in Japan album. It's good. It ain't great, but I've never seen this thing on CD. And there's Roll On Down the Highway, you know that. Welcome Home, really heavy track. 4-wheel drive is great, taking care of business. Kind of a cool live record. Even the Beatles, well, the Beatles never really broke up, obviously. I mean, they did, but their albums have been coming out continuously ever since. And there's a ton of Beatle compilations that you can't get on CD. Remember this one? Rock and Roll Music from 1977. What an awful cover that is. Oh, my God. Just terrible. I know why this thing's not released. But this was supposed to be their rock and roll tracks. Not a big hit for me. I didn't listen to it much. The same time this came out, they did Love Songs, which I have downstairs. But that's a much better compilation. I just wanted to show this one for the hideous cover. But I wouldn't put that on CD. Nor this, the Beatles Live at the Star Club in Hamburg. Historic recording, but not exactly high fidelity. But if you're a Beatles freak, certainly worthwhile to check out. Lawsuit over this album. They stopped this one from being produced, understandably, but good to have. Did you ever hear of this guy, John Butcher? This is a great album. He's a great guitarist. John Butcher Access was the band, and I've never seen this on CD, Wishes. But if you want to check out a great melodic guitar player, yeah, it's got that hair metal look. This is a killer album. Check out Goodbye Saving Grace, Holy War, and the title track Wishes. This is a really good record that a friend of mine, Sandy, turned me on to decades ago. And I never saw that on CD. This is a rare one. These were the original guys that were in the Mach 1 of Deep Purple and Captain Beyond. I talked about that in another video. Their first 2 albums on Capricorn were released, but this was their 3rd album, Dawn Explosion. Very progressive, cool artwork. I'm really just showing. It's not phenomenal. Their first 2 albums are available on Capricorn CDs, but that's kind of cool. This is a classic for me. Do you guys remember this one? This is from like 1971, and this was a huge hit record, Yellow River. I think it was a #1 hit. I have the 45 downstairs as well. I've never seen this released on CD. I think Repertoire put it out, and it costs a fortune, and it's really rare. But this album is just killer from beginning to end. You would think this would have been out on CD because Yellow River, you all know the song. Check out the song. Yellow River is in my heart and in my mind. It was like a #1 hit from around 70, 71. And this is a great album from top to bottom. It's Yellow River, Gotta Be Free, I've Got a Feeling, New York City. I'm looking at the tracks. Down San Bernardino's and other. This is a really good record. Rhino, how come you never put this out? This is a great record. Check out Yellow River. You hear the song, you'll be like, oh, I remember that song. Charlie Daniels Band is one of my favorite bands. I know most people out there think of Charlie Daniels as the fiddle player and a country rock guy, and he is. Never went down to Georgia. But Charlie Daniels Band, especially in the beginning, were a serious rock and roll band. I mean, amazing. And this was the album they put out right before Fire on the Mountain. And this album is killer. It's not as good as Fire on the Mountain, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. But this album is just great. So if you want to hear what Charlie Daniels Band sounds as a real serious rock and roll band, this was on Buddha Records. Check out this. This is not available on CD, but listen to I've Been Down. Give This Fool Another Try is like an amazing rockin' blues track. The title track, Way Down Yonder is amazing. You'll be like, wow, that's Charlie Daniels Band? Yeah, fantastic. I wanted to just show this for the cover. I know that's Mark Farner, of course, the lead singer of Grand Funk, and I'm a pretty big Grand Funk fan. But they don't make album covers like that. There's Mark Farner bare-chested on a horse. This was his first solo record. Yeah, it's actually a really good record. But if you like Grand Funk, you might want to check this out. But I just had to show the cover. That's a classic. I'm a really, really big Peter Frampton fan. I'm glad that he got the respect back that he so deserved because I've never given up on Frampton. I loved him back when he was super popular, and I never stopped buying his albums. And Peter Frampton is great. And now he's won Grammys for his guitar playing, and he's very well respected. Even Frampton doesn't mention this album, and I don't know why. This is an album called Breaking All the Rules, and this album is absolutely unbelievable. Classic for me. It was a top 3 album the year that it came out for me. And it's an amazing sounding record. It sounds like he recorded it live in the studio, not audience. Just the band is on fire. It just explodes out of your speakers. And pound for pound, this album is just killer. And it's available used in used record stores. If you see this album, you got to go pick it out. But if you're doing Spotify and stuff like that, do yourself a favor and check out the title track, Breaking All the Rules. You got to crank it up. It is meant to be played loud. It is explosive. And it's an unbelievable song from a great album. And if you like that, then you check out Rise Up. Wasting the Night Away is a nice ballad. You Kill Me is another great track. But Breaking All the Rules, the title track, is... if it's not the greatest thing Frampton ever did, it's way up there. And why this album was never put out on CD, I don't know. Rhino, I got my hat on. Put this album out with bonus tracks. It's amazing. Frampton never talks about that album either. And if I ever met Frampton, I'd be like, how do you not mention that album? That album's killer. Speaking of Mark Farner, here's Grand Funk. Grand Funk had broken up, of course, but then they reformed and they put this album out. It wasn't the complete original band, but Grand Funk Lives is a great record. This is a great return to form. Unfortunately, it was not a big hit. Came out on Warner Brothers, and I don't know, maybe lack of promotion or just... But this album is just a really, really good record. Check out Queen Bee, YOU. It's just a really good album from start to finish, and really hard to find on CD. The album they did after that was this one. Now look at that cover. I kind of understand why this wasn't a big hit. And it's called What's Funk. Not nearly as good as the other one. I just wanted to show you the cover. Yep, that was the end of Grand Funk after that. I'm a really big Southern rock fan. And of course, you have all the major bands, but there was a lot of really good, what you'd call B and C level bands that just never really made it in a big way. And this is a band called Grinder Switch, and they're a really good record. This is an album called Pulling Together. And if you like really good Southern rock, I mean, they're not as good as the big biggies, but this is a really solid record. And I don't know why the Grinder Switch is really not available on CD. That cover is a little, yeah, you know what it kind of looks like in retrospect, but kind of cool stuff. And Grinder Switch has a ton of records. There's another. This is a really good record called Red Wing. You can check out the title track, Red Wing. None of their stuff is really available on CD, but it should be if you like Southern rock. Really good band. This is a special record from a special band. This is called Les Variations. Les Variations was a French Moroccan band, and they had their own sound, which was really they called it Moroccan roll. You get it, like more rock and roll, but it's Moroccan, like Moroccan sound. And they kind of look like the Rolling Stones. They have that kind of look. They sang in English. They had a couple of albums beforehand, but this was picked up by Buddha Records back in like 74 or 71. Doing this from memory. 74, I was right. They sound like nothing else you've ever heard. They got some pickup this was an article from Circus Magazine's Rock's French Connection. They were the real deal, like a real serious rock and roll band, but they mixed in some great sounds, like really unusual. Here's from my archives, an ad, full-page ad from Rolling Stone magazine, Rock and Roll from Les Variations. They tried to push this band, and here's a review from a paper. So what do they sound like? It's really hard to explain. They're a rock and roll band with really cool sound. So what I would recommend, check out, the lead singer is Joe Leb on this album, and he's got a gruff voice, so it's a bit of an acquired taste. But the title track is really good, Moroccan Roll. But do me a favor. After you watch this video, go to YouTube and put on a song called I Don't Know Why and play it loud. You'll be dancing in the room. It's unbelievable. I Don't Know Why from Les Variations. Rock and Roll, one of my all-time favorites. This is a really good album, top to bottom. Anyway, there's a really cool instrumental called Sanglots. All I Want to Know is a really pretty ballad. They just have a really cool sound that you've never heard anything like it. It's rock and roll with a Moroccan French touch. And after that album, which was 74, the lead singer left. They brought in another lead singer, and they released this album called Café de Paris. And this album actually had a top 40 hit called Superman. Superman, Superman. It went Superman, Superman, you don't do the best we can. Really good poppy kind of a song. I like the other album better, but the other album's a little bit of a tougher listen because this album's a little bit smoother. The new singer, which was Robert Fatuzzi, had a cleaner voice. But you can check out Superman, Maybe Forever is a beautiful ballad. Come Now is a great rocker. They're a really good band, and they have this Moroccan sound that's unforgettable. And unfortunately, they just never really made it big in the States. But they maintain a really big. There's Lou Merenstein. He was the producer, big guy from Buddha Records. So great stuff. Les Variations. And finally, on this part one, I'm going to end is one of my favorite artists is Nils Lofgren. Nils has just not had great coverage on CDs. And so much of Nils's great stuff is unavailable on CD. And I don't know why. I mean, he was on A&M Records. Look at this. This is his double live album from 77. They were pushing him to try to get like a Frampton Comes Alive success. It didn't work. But look at that cover. I mean, that's rock and roll right there. This was the flip side. And this is a double live Nils Lofgren album called Night After Night. And it's a really good double live album. I collect memorabilia and what it look like inside. I mean, Nils is just, you know Nils now because he's a guitarist in the E Street Band. But he was around before Springsteen with Grin, and I've been a fan the whole time. This is a really good overview of Nils Lofgren, from that time period. This has never been available on CD. I don't. It's unbelievable. I don't know why. He does a lot of jamming on this, so like great songs like "Back It Up" instead of being 3 minutes plus extended on here. But this is a great. This was my introductory to Nils Lofgren. I got it from Columbia House. I bought this and his album. I Came to Dance, unseen. I never unheard. I just had to check him out for the cover, and I knew about his Keith Don't Go song about Keith Richards, which is on this album. And this is a killer live record. Again, it's got a lot of extended jamming, but this should be on CD. As should this one. This was the closest he came to really big success, except for his first album. This is the Nils album. It's called Nils, from Nils Lofgren. And how this album's not on CD. Check out No Mercy, Shine Silently. These are classic tracks in my house. And anybody who knows me knows these songs. Shine Silently is classic. No Mercy is classic. Steal Away is a killer song. This is a really good album. He does Baltimore's a cover of Randy Newman's song, and it's phenomenal on this album. And not a great cover, but a great album. As is this one. This will be the last one for this part one of this show. Here's an album called Wonderland. I mean, this is another really good album, never available that I ever saw on CD. And this album has Across the Tracks on it. So check out Across the Tracks. Turn me off and go listen to Across the Tracks. There's a girl who loves me just as much as I love her. We are unified, still we're crucified, just because we live across the tracks. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I don't know how this stuff doesn't get played on the radio. What a great song. It's a great album. There's a ton of really good songs on this, but check out Across the Tracks. And this album, Wonderland, unavailable on CD. I don't know. Nils Lofgren needs to have better availability of his really great early stuff. So that's going to end part one, and I'm going to do part two. We'll continue, so this way you don't get too bored. Thanks for tuning in, and check out part two when you can.